Your greatest enemy isn't failure. It isn't rejection. It isn't the world around you. It's the endless conversation happening inside your own mind. Every dream you've delayed, every opportunity you've missed, and every moment you've doubted yourself began with one thought that you refused to let go. Today, I'll show you how to silence the noise, trust yourself again, and finally stop overthinking everything. Overthinking does not begin because your mind is weak. It begins because your mind is trying to protect you. The human brain was designed to identify danger, solve problems, and prepare for uncertainty. Thousands of years ago, this ability helped people survive in a world filled with real physical threats. Today, however, the same survival system often reacts to situations that are not life-threatening. A difficult conversation, an unanswered message, a career decision, or the fear of making a mistake can trigger the same mental alarm that once protected our ancestors from danger. Your mind believes it is helping you by thinking about every possible outcome, but instead of creating clarity, it often creates confusion. One of the biggest misconceptions about overthinking is believing that more thinking automatically leads to better decisions. In reality, there comes a point where thinking stops being productive and starts becoming repetitive. Instead of discovering new solutions, your mind begins replaying the same questions over and over again. You analyze every possibility, imagine every worst-case scenario, and revisit every mistake as though repeating it enough times will somehow change the past. This endless cycle consumes your energy without bringing you any closer to peace. Your brain also struggles with uncertainty. It naturally wants complete answers before taking action. It wants guarantees that everything will work perfectly. The problem is that life rarely provides absolute certainty. There will always be unknowns, risks, and situations beyond your control. When your mind refuses to accept uncertainty, it keeps searching for information that does not exist. The result is mental exhaustion because you are demanding certainty from a world that cannot provide it. Fear plays a powerful role in overthinking as well. Much of the time, you are not analyzing because you enjoy thinking. You are analyzing because you are afraid of making the wrong choice. You fear failure, rejection, embarrassment, criticism, or disappointment. Instead of moving forward, you convince yourself that one more hour of thinking will eliminate all risk. Yet every additional thought simply creates another question. Eventually, the decision itself becomes far more frightening than it ever needed to be. Another reason your mind never stops is because it confuses thinking with control. It quietly believes that if it can predict every possible outcome, nothing bad will happen. This illusion gives temporary comfort, but it is not reality. No amount of thinking can control every conversation, every opportunity, or every future event. Some parts of life will always remain unpredictable. Learning to accept this truth is one of the first steps toward mental freedom. Comparison also fuels overthinking. Every time you measure your journey against someone else's success, your mind begins creating unnecessary pressure. You question whether you are moving fast enough, achieving enough, or becoming enough. Social media often intensifies this habit because you compare your ordinary moments to someone else's carefully edited highlights. The more you compare, the more your mind searches for flaws within yourself, creating endless internal conversations that never produce confidence. Perfectionism is another hidden cause. Many people overthink because they believe every decision must be flawless. They imagine there is one perfect answer waiting to be discovered if they simply think long enough. This belief creates paralysis because perfection is impossible. Every decision involves uncertainty, and every meaningful journey includes mistakes. Waiting for the perfect choice often means never making a choice at all. Your environment also shapes your thinking. Constant exposure to negativity, endless information, overwhelming schedules, and continuous distractions leaves your mind with very little opportunity to rest. When your brain never experiences quiet moments, it continues processing information long after it should have slowed down. This creates a cycle where your thoughts become louder simply because they have never been given space to settle. The encouraging truth is that overthinking is a habit, not an identity. It is a pattern your mind has learned through repetition, and like any habit, it can be changed. The first step is not trying to stop every thought that enters your mind. That is impossible. The first step is understanding why those thoughts appear and recognizing that not every thought deserves your attention. Once you begin seeing overthinking as a protective mechanism, rather than an accurate reflection of reality, you create distance between yourself and the endless mental noise, allowing wisdom to replace fear, clarity to replace confusion, and intentional action to replace the exhausting habit of trying to think your way into complete certainty. One of the biggest reasons people become trapped in overthinking is that they struggle to distinguish between facts and the stories their minds create. Every situation contains reality, but it also contains interpretation. The problem is that the human mind often mixes the two together until assumptions begin feeling like absolute truth. A leader, a high performer, or anyone with a healthy mindset learns to separate what they know from what they merely fear. That simple habit creates clarity because facts are usually much smaller than the emotional stories built around them. Imagine sending an important message and receiving no reply for several hours. The fact is simple, the message has not been answered yet. That is all reality has confirmed. But within minutes, your mind begins creating explanations. Maybe they are upset with you. Maybe you said something wrong. Maybe they no longer respect you. Perhaps an opportunity has disappeared forever. None of these conclusions are facts. They're assumptions created to fill the gap left by uncertainty. The more attention you give those assumptions, the more real they begin to feel. Fear has an incredible ability to disguise itself as logic. It presents frightening possibilities as though they are inevitable outcomes. You tell yourself that you are simply being realistic, but many times you are actually preparing yourself for situations that may never happen. Your mind believes worrying will somehow protect you from disappointment. Instead, it steals your peace long before reality has made any decision. Fear convinces you to suffer twice, once in your imagination, and again only if the event actually occurs. Another common habit is treating temporary emotions as permanent evidence. You may wake up feeling uncertain and immediately conclude that you are incapable. You experience one failure and decide you are not talented enough. Someone criticizes your work, and you assume your entire future is at risk. Emotions are real, but they are not always reliable indicators of reality. They change from day to day, sometimes even from hour to hour. Wise people acknowledge their emotions without allowing those emotions to become unquestioned truth. One powerful way to separate facts from fear is by asking better questions. Instead of asking, what if everything goes wrong? Ask, what evidence actually supports this belief? Instead of assuming the worst, ask, am I responding to facts or to possibilities? These questions interrupt automatic thinking and force your mind to examine reality rather than imagination. Often, you discover that your greatest fears are based on very little evidence. Your past experiences also influence how you interpret present situations. If you have experienced rejection before, your mind may expect rejection again even when no signs exist. If you have failed in the past, you may automatically assume future attempts will end the same way. While previous experiences provide valuable lessons, they should not become permanent predictions. Every new situation deserves to be evaluated on its own facts, rather than filtered entirely through old fears. Social comparison creates another layer of false assumptions. You see someone else's success and immediately conclude they have everything figured out. You compare your behind the scenes struggles to someone else's public victories. The fact is that you know only a small portion of their story. Your mind fills the missing details with assumptions that make you feel inadequate. Reality is far more complex than the picture you imagine. Learning to slow down before reaching conclusions is one of the greatest habits you can develop. Fast thinking often produces emotional reactions. Slow thinking creates thoughtful responses. When something unexpected happens, resist the urge to immediately assign meaning to it. Give yourself permission to gather information, ask questions, and observe the situation carefully before deciding what it actually means. Patience protects you from countless unnecessary worries that disappear once the full picture becomes clear. It is also important to remember that uncertainty is not evidence of danger. Many people assume that because they do not know what will happen next, something bad must be coming. In reality, uncertainty simply means the future has not yet unfolded. It contains both risks and opportunities. Fear notices only the risks. Wisdom recognizes both. The way you interpret uncertainty often determines whether you experience anxiety or possibility. When you begin separating facts from fear, your mind becomes quieter because it no longer treats every imagined scenario as reality. You stop fighting battles that exist only in your thoughts. You become more patient, more confident, and more capable of making wise decisions because your attention is focused on what is true instead of what is merely possible. Allowing clarity to replace assumption and giving yourself the freedom to move forward without carrying the unnecessary weight of imagined outcomes. One of the biggest reasons people stay trapped in overthinking is the belief that there is always a perfect decision waiting to be found. They convince themselves that if they analyze every possibility, compare every option, and predict every outcome, they will eventually discover the one choice that guarantees success. It sounds logical at first, but in reality, this pursuit of perfection often becomes the very thing that prevents progress. Instead of moving forward, they remain stuck, waiting for certainty that never arrives. Learning to stop chasing perfect decisions is one of the most powerful ways to quiet your mind and regain control of your life. Life has never been designed to provide complete certainty before action. Every meaningful decision involves some level of risk. Whether you are choosing a career, starting a business, entering a relationship, moving to a new city, or pursuing a dream, there will always be unknowns. The future cannot be predicted with absolute accuracy. The people who accomplish remarkable things are not those who eliminate uncertainty. They are the ones who learn to move despite it. They understand that confidence grows through action, not endless analysis. Perfectionism often disguises itself as responsibility. You tell yourself that you are simply being careful, thoughtful, or prepared. But there is a difference between careful planning and constant hesitation. Preparation helps you move forward. Perfectionism keeps you standing still. At some point, additional thinking stops adding value and starts creating fear. Instead of making your decisions stronger, it simply increases your anxiety because every answer leads to another question. Many people fear making the wrong decision because they believe one mistake will permanently damage their future. This belief creates enormous pressure. They imagine that every choice carries life, changing consequences, when in reality, most decisions can be adjusted over time. Successful people rarely make perfect decisions from the beginning. They make reasonable decisions based on the information available, then learn, adapt, and improve as they move forward. Progress is built through flexibility, not flawless planning. Another important truth is that every decision teaches you something valuable. Even choices that do not produce the desired outcome provide experience, wisdom, and clarity for future decisions. Failure is often treated as proof that a decision was wrong. In reality, failure frequently becomes one of the greatest teachers in life. Every setback reveals information that success could never provide. When you stop fearing mistakes, decisions become less intimidating because every outcome contributes to your growth. The desire for perfection also steals opportunities. Opportunities rarely wait until you feel completely ready. They often appear unexpectedly and require courage before certainty. Those who spend too much time searching for the perfect moment usually watch that moment pass by. Meanwhile, people who are willing to act with imperfect confidence gain experience, build momentum, and discover possibilities that overthinkers never reach because they remain trapped in preparation. One helpful way to reduce overthinking is to shift your focus from making the perfect decision to making the next reasonable decision. Instead of asking yourself, is this absolutely the best choice? Ask, based on what I know today, is this a wise step forward? That question removes unnecessary pressure because it recognizes that no one possesses complete knowledge about the future. You simply make the best decision you can with the information currently available. It is also important to recognize that no decision will eliminate all discomfort. Every meaningful path includes challenges. If you choose one opportunity, you naturally give up another. Every choice involves trade-offs. Waiting for an option without risk or sacrifice only leads to endless waiting because such a decision does not exist. Accepting this reality brings freedom because you stop demanding impossible certainty from yourself. Growth always requires movement. A parked car cannot be steered. Only a moving vehicle can change direction. The same principle applies to life. Once you begin taking action, you gain new information, discover unexpected opportunities, and make better adjustments along the way. Action creates clarity that thinking alone can never provide. Many answers reveal themselves only after you have taken the first step. The goal is not to make perfect decisions. The goal is to become the kind of person who can handle whatever follows those decisions. When you trust your ability to learn, adapt, recover, and continue growing, the fear of making the wrong choice loses much of its power. You stop searching for perfection and begin building resilience, realizing that your future will be shaped far more by your willingness to keep learning than by your ability to predict every possible outcome before you begin. One of the greatest lies overthinking tells you is that confidence must come before action. It whispers that you should wait until you feel completely ready, completely certain, and completely fearless before taking the first step. The problem is that confidence rarely appears while you are standing still. Confidence is not something you discover by thinking about success. It is something you build by moving through uncertainty. The people you admire did not begin with unshakable confidence. They developed it by taking action despite their doubts, fears, and unanswered questions. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. No amount of reading, planning, or imagining could teach you how to balance. At some point, you had to get on the bicycle and start moving. You probably wobbled, made mistakes, and maybe even fell. Yet every attempt taught your body something new. Eventually, balance became natural. Life works the same way. Many lessons cannot be learned through thinking alone. They can only be learned through experience. Action teaches what overthinking never can. Overthinkers often believe they are protecting themselves by waiting. They imagine that another day of planning will remove uncertainty or guarantee success. Instead, waiting usually strengthens fear. Every day you delay an important decision, your mind creates new reasons why it might fail. Problems that were once small become enormous in your imagination. Opportunities begin looking more dangerous than they actually are because fear grows strongest when it is never challenged. Action interrupts this cycle. The moment you begin moving, your attention shifts from imagination to reality. Instead of wondering what might happen, you start dealing with what is actually happening. This change is incredibly powerful because real problems are often much easier to solve than imagined ones. Reality provides facts, while overthinking creates endless possibilities that may never exist. By taking action, you replace uncertainty with experience. Many people also underestimate the value of imperfect action. They believe every first step must be impressive. In reality, the first step only needs to move you forward. Great businesses often begin with simple ideas. Strong relationships begin with one honest conversation. Successful careers begin with one application, one interview, or one opportunity. Extraordinary achievements are usually built through ordinary actions, repeated consistently over time. Waiting for the perfect beginning often prevents any beginning at all. Fear of failure keeps many people trapped. They believe making a mistake will prove they are not capable enough. But failure does not define your ability. It develops it. Every mistake teaches lessons that success cannot provide. Every setback increases resilience, improves judgment, and strengthens character if you choose to learn instead of quit. Action gives you feedback. Overthinking gives you only speculation. Growth always follows feedback because experience reveals what theory cannot. Another important truth is that motivation often follows action rather than creating it. Many people wait to feel inspired before they begin working. Yet once they finally start, energy naturally increases. Momentum creates motivation. Each completed step builds confidence for the next one. Small victories gradually convince your mind that progress is possible. This is why successful people often focus on starting rather than waiting to feel ready. They understand that movement creates emotional momentum. Taking action also reduces anxiety because it restores a sense of control. Overthinking leaves you feeling powerless because every possibility remains unresolved. Even small actions remind you that you have influence over your future. You cannot control every outcome, but you can control your effort, your attitude, and your willingness to continue learning. That realization brings peace because your attention shifts from uncontrollable outcomes to meaningful actions. It is also important to remember that nobody feels completely prepared for life's biggest opportunities. Every entrepreneur experiences uncertainty before launching a business. Every leader faces self-doubt before making difficult decisions. Every athlete feels nervous before important competitions. The difference is that they refuse to let uncertainty become an excuse. They understand that courage is not waiting until fear disappears. Courage is acting while fear is still present. When you stop waiting for confidence and begin taking consistent action, something remarkable happens. Each step becomes proof that you are more capable than your fears suggested. Every challenge you face successfully becomes evidence that you can handle uncertainty. Gradually, your mind becomes quieter because it no longer depends on endless thinking for security. It begins trusting the person you are becoming through experience, resilience, and the repeated decision to move forward even when certainty has not yet arrived. One of the most effective ways to stop overthinking is to train your mind to live in the present instead of constantly traveling between the past and the future. Overthinking survives by pulling your attention away from what is happening right now. It convinces you to replay yesterday's mistakes or predict tomorrow's problems until your mind becomes exhausted. The truth is that most of the stress you experience does not come from the present moment itself. It comes from the endless stories your mind creates about moments that no longer exist or have not happened yet. Learning to return to the present is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself because peace is always found in the present, never in endless mental speculation. Think about how much time your mind spends replaying old memories. You remember conversations you wish had gone differently. You relive failures that happened years ago. You wonder what your life would look like if you had made different choices. Reflection is valuable when it helps you learn, but it becomes destructive when it turns into endless regret. The past has already taught you its lessons. Continuing to replay it cannot change the outcome. Every minute spent fighting yesterday is a minute taken away from building today. The future creates a different kind of trap. Your mind believes that if it can predict every possible problem, it will somehow protect you from disappointment. You imagine losing opportunities before they even appear. You worry about conversations that have not happened. You fear rejection before anyone has rejected you. You create entire scenarios that exist only inside your imagination. Most of these situations never become reality, yet your body responds as though they are happening right now. Your heart races, your breathing changes. Anxiety begins controlling your thoughts because your brain struggles to distinguish between imagined danger and real danger. One powerful habit is learning to notice when your thoughts leave the present. Instead of automatically believing every thought, become curious about it. Ask yourself, is this happening right now, or is my mind creating a story? That simple question interrupts the cycle of overthinking. It reminds you that not every thought deserves your attention. Many thoughts are simply habits your brain has repeated for years without questioning whether they are actually true or helpful. Your breathing is another powerful tool for returning to the present. Whenever your thoughts begin racing, pause and take slow, intentional breaths. Feel the air entering your lungs and leaving your body. This simple act shifts your attention away from imagined problems and back to the reality of the current moment. Breathing cannot solve every problem, but it creates enough space for your mind to slow down before reacting emotionally. Another helpful practice is paying attention to your surroundings. Notice the sounds around you, the colors you see, the feeling of your feet touching the ground, or the warmth of sunlight through a window. These small observations remind your brain that life is happening now, not inside endless mental conversations. The more often you reconnect with your environment, the easier it becomes to escape the trap of constant overthinking. It is also important to focus on one step instead of the entire journey. Overthinkers often become overwhelmed because they try to solve every future problem at once. Instead, ask yourself, what is the next useful action I can take today? It may be making one phone call, writing one page, finishing one task, or having one honest conversation. Small actions reduce anxiety because they replace endless thinking with meaningful progress. Gratitude is another habit that strengthens present moment awareness. Your mind naturally focuses on what is missing, what could go wrong, or what still needs to be achieved. Taking time each day to notice what is already good in your life changes that pattern. Gratitude does not ignore difficulties. It simply reminds you that your life contains far more than your worries. It teaches your mind to recognize blessings alongside challenges. Living in the present does not mean ignoring your future or pretending your past never happened. It means refusing to allow either one to steal the only moment where you actually have the power to act. Every decision, every opportunity, every conversation, and every positive change begins in the present moment, when you repeatedly bring your attention back to where you are instead of where your fears want to take you. Your mind becomes quieter, your decisions become clearer, your confidence grows stronger, and you begin experiencing life with greater peace, purpose, awareness, and freedom from the exhausting habit of living everywhere except the moment that truly belongs to you. Overthinking becomes dangerous when negative thoughts stop being occasional visitors and start becoming permanent residents in your mind. Every person experiences doubt, fear, and uncertainty from time to time. The problem begins when those thoughts repeat so often that they shape the way you see yourself and the world around you. Your mind starts believing that every challenge will end in failure, every opportunity will lead to disappointment, and every mistake defines your future. If you want to stop overthinking, you must learn to replace negative thought loops with a stronger sense of purpose, because a mind without direction will always wander toward fear. Negative thought loops usually begin with one simple idea. It might be, I'm not good enough, I'll probably fail, or people are judging me. Instead of questioning that thought, you repeat it. The more you repeat it, the more familiar it becomes. Eventually, familiarity begins to feel like truth. This is how limiting beliefs are formed. They are not always created by facts. They are often created by repetition. Your brain accepts what it hears most often, whether it is accurate or not. One reason these thought loops become so powerful is because the human mind naturally pays more attention to negative experiences than positive ones. This is known as the brain's negativity bias. A single criticism can stay in your mind for weeks, while 10 compliments are forgotten by the next day. One failure seems more important than many successes. Your mind believes focusing on danger keeps you safe, but in modern life, this habit often keeps you trapped in unnecessary anxiety. Purpose changes the direction of your thinking. When your life is connected to something meaningful, your attention naturally shifts away from constant self-analysis. Instead of asking, what if I fail? You begin asking, how can I contribute? Instead of worrying about how people might judge you, you focus on the difference you want to make. Purpose moves your attention from protecting your image to fulfilling your mission. That shift reduces overthinking because your energy is invested in meaningful action instead of endless mental debate. Another important habit is learning to challenge your negative thoughts instead of automatically believing them. Every time your mind tells you that you cannot succeed, ask yourself what evidence actually supports that conclusion. Many times you will discover that your fear is based on assumptions rather than facts. Replacing negative thinking does not mean pretending every situation is easy. It means choosing balanced, truthful thoughts instead of exaggerated fears. The words you speak to yourself also shape your mindset. Most people would never speak to a friend the way they speak to themselves. They criticize every mistake, magnify every weakness, and ignore every achievement. Leaders understand the importance of healthy self-talk. They encourage themselves with honesty rather than harshness. They admit mistakes while also recognizing progress. They understand that growth requires patience, not constant self-condemnation. Purpose also gives difficult experiences meaning. Challenges become easier to endure when you understand why you are facing them. Athletes accept exhausting training because they see the championship beyond the pain. Entrepreneurs accept setbacks because they believe in the vision they are building. Parents willingly sacrifice comfort because they love their children. Purpose transforms suffering into investment. Without purpose, every obstacle feels meaningless. With purpose, every obstacle becomes part of a greater journey. Your environment plays a significant role in shaping your thoughts as well. The people you spend time with, the books you read, the content you consume, and the conversations you engage in all influence your mindset. Constant exposure to negativity strengthens negative thought loops. Surrounding yourself with encouraging people, inspiring ideas, and meaningful conversations creates a healthier mental environment where purpose has room to grow. Another powerful practice is replacing endless thinking with intentional action. Every time a negative thought appears, ask yourself what positive action you can take instead of continuing to worry. Action weakens fear because it proves that you are capable of moving forward despite uncertainty. Small actions repeated consistently gradually retrain your mind to associate challenges with progress rather than paralysis. When purpose becomes stronger than fear, overthinking begins to lose its grip. Your thoughts no longer revolve around protecting yourself from every possible mistake. They become focused on serving others, growing through challenges, and making meaningful progress. The negative loops that once controlled your attention begin to fade because they are replaced by a vision that is greater than your doubts, allowing your mind to become a place of clarity, resilience, hope, and intentional thinking rather than an endless cycle of fear and uncertainty. The ultimate goal is not simply to stop overthinking for a few moments. The real goal is to build a life where peace becomes your natural state of mind. Many people spend years searching for techniques that quiet their thoughts temporarily, but they never address the deeper habits that continually create mental noise. A peaceful mind is not built through one motivational speech, one book, or one good day. It is built through the daily decisions you make, the habits you practice, and the mindset you choose to develop over time. When peace becomes your default mindset, overthinking gradually loses the power it once had over your life. One of the first steps toward lasting peace is accepting that you cannot control everything. Much of your overthinking comes from trying to predict outcomes, manage other people's opinions, or eliminate every possible risk. The harder you try to control the uncontrollable, the more anxious your mind becomes. Peace begins the moment you recognize the difference between what belongs within your control and what does not. You can control your attitude, your effort, your integrity, and your decisions. You cannot control every circumstance, every opinion, or every future event. Accepting this truth removes an enormous weight from your mind. Another important habit is creating healthy routines that protect your mental well-being. Your mind functions best when your body is cared for. Regular sleep improves emotional stability. Exercise reduces stress and increases mental clarity. Healthy nutrition supports better concentration and energy. Quiet moments away from constant digital distractions allow your brain to recover. These habits may seem simple, but together they create an environment where peace can grow naturally instead of constantly fighting against exhaustion and overload. It is also essential to learn the value of slowing down. Modern life often rewards business, making people believe they must always be productive, always connected, and always thinking about the next task. Constant business leaves very little space for reflection. When your schedule never pauses, your mind rarely does either. Leaders understand that rest is not laziness, it is preparation. Taking time to slow down, reflect, and recharge allows your thoughts to become clearer and your decisions to become wiser. Healthy relationships also contribute to a peaceful mindset. The people around you influence your thinking more than you may realize. Spending time with individuals who constantly complain, criticize, or create unnecessary drama gradually shapes your own perspective. Surrounding yourself with people who encourage growth, honesty, optimism, and accountability creates emotional stability. Peace grows more easily in environments where trust, respect, and encouragement are present. Learning to let go is another essential skill. Many people carry emotional burdens long after situations have ended. They continue holding on to resentment, disappointment, guilt, or regret because they believe releasing those emotions somehow means ignoring what happened. Letting go does not mean pretending the pain never existed. It means refusing to allow yesterday's experiences to continue controlling today's decisions. Forgiveness, acceptance, and emotional release create space for peace to replace constant mental conflict. Purpose also becomes a powerful source of stability. When your life is connected to meaningful values and clear direction, small distractions lose much of their influence. You stop allowing every opinion, setback, or temporary difficulty to control your emotions because your attention remains focused on something greater than the immediate problem. Purpose acts like an anchor during life's storms, keeping your mind steady when circumstances become uncertain. Another valuable practice is celebrating progress instead of demanding perfection. Many overthinkers rarely acknowledge how far they have come because they remain focused on how much further they believe they should be. This constant dissatisfaction keeps the mind restless. Recognizing small victories builds confidence and reminds you that growth is happening even when it feels slow. Peace grows when you learn to appreciate progress instead of constantly criticizing yourself for not being perfect. Building a peaceful mindset is not about eliminating every challenge from your life. Difficult moments will continue to appear. Unexpected setbacks will happen. Uncertainty will always exist. The difference is that your response changes. Instead of allowing every difficulty to pull you into endless worry, you begin meeting challenges with patience, confidence, and emotional balance. Overthinking no longer becomes your automatic reaction because your mind has been trained to trust your ability to adapt, learn, and move forward. With every intentional habit you build, every healthy choice you make, and every moment you choose presence over fear, peace becomes less of an occasional feeling and more of the steady foundation upon which you live your entire life.